Dr. Mary Bousted is the Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union. Good evening.
Good evening.
Gavin Williamson was saying there that he hopes that teachers will be prioritised for vaccines, but it doesn't sound from the way he's talking there that he has a great deal of say in it.
I don't know. That's down to wider government decisions, and I suppose down to the advice he's getting from the Prime Minister and the Cabinet are getting from their scientific advisors. So, much as I'd like to, I can't influence that. That's their decision.
I think the point I'm making is if anybody could influence it, wouldn't it be the Education Secretary?
I don't know how much influence that Gavin Williamson has in the Cabinet at the moment, I'm afraid.
Do you think that teachers should be higher up the priority list for vaccinations? I mean, obviously, we haven't even got into key workers at all. It's mainly on age and medical condition at the moment. But is that something that you are pushing for?
We absolutely think that teachers and support staff who are working in crowded environments with no social distancing and with children who can transmit the virus, they should be a greater priority for the vaccination. We absolutely do agree with that. But the problem is that you can do that and you can open schools and know that school staff would be safe from catching the virus. The problem is that school children transmit the virus in school and then take it into their families and into the community. And I think the bigger issue is that if we're going to get the vaccination system to work, we need to keep viral levels low enough so that we can get enough people vaccinated so there is more immunity and so that we're not in danger of the new variants lessening the effectiveness of the vaccination programme. So whilst vaccinating teachers and support staff would enable schools to open, we also need to be really careful about the role of schools in increasing the R rate through children taking the virus home.
So when do you think that schools should reopen? And by that, I'm not asking for a date. I'm asking for a state of affairs. When teachers have been vaccinated, when the top 4 most vulnerable groups have been vaccinated, when do you think it's fit to reopen schools?
Well, I think that rather than focusing on vaccination, I think I'd want to focus on this, that the viral levels need to be down low enough in the community and throughout the nation so that hospitals are in no danger of being overwhelmed. And so that and other mitigations put in place in schools so they are much safer, because at the moment they're simply not safe enough. So in secondary, I think we should be looking at lowering the numbers of pupils in school on a regular basis, and that might mean above year 9 going to a rota basis, so you can have more social distancing in schools. You can have more children involved in school in person, but not for the whole week. And we need to really seriously consider what other safety measures can be taken, because it's clear that the safety measures taken in schools before Christmas did not work. Now, if you did all of those things, schools are less likely to be vectors of transmission, which is what the Prime Minister said. And we should also be looking at the vaccination of school staff as well.
How soon? I mean, Gavin Williamson was saying that he wants to give schools 2 weeks notice. Yeah. How soon do you think schools could be aiming to reopen? Because we've got a situation now where children are going to be potentially looking at missing a year of learning.
Yep, and nobody wants schools closed. I mean, schools are the best place for children and young people, and teachers and support staff want to be there. It's much nicer teaching in school than it is doing this remote learning, which is really hard work for teachers and hard work for pupils who are sat in front of a laptop all day, if they're lucky enough to have a laptop. But what I would put it another way, and I said this today in the Department for Education, we need not to have this yo-yoing between schools being open and schools closing. And the worst thing that could happen is that schools open too quickly when viral levels aren't low enough, and then we have to close them again. So we want the viral levels to reduce. We want the vaccination to work. We want test, track, trace and isolate to work much better. I think that by half term, it is unlikely that those conditions can be realised. But we do want those things to happen as quickly as possible. I mean, there's some worrying evidence today from that the levels of infection aren't decreasing quickly enough in the lockdown. So we just need to look at all of that. And whilst that's happening, we need to make sure that children who don't have laptops have them so that they can learn remotely, because teachers are putting vast amounts of effort into providing online lessons, providing remote learning. But if we've got hundreds of thousands of children who don't have that equipment, then they're not able to access that, and they're more likely to be poor children. So we really need action on that.
Dr. Mary Bousted, thank you, Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union.